Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising patch 2.10 has dropped, and aside from releasing a new DLC character, there are a couple of changes as well to the cast of the game. There's a couple of universal system mechanics which we're going to cover in this video, and then because all of the other character-specific changes are quite substantial, I'm going to focus on making them their own videos, just so that all the information is separated, and it's going to be pretty easy for everybody to find stuff. The patch overall seems to be focusing on trying to nerf a couple of the high-tier characters in a couple of small, meaningful ways that should hopefully bring them in line in a couple edge case situations, while many of the low-tier characters in the game have received substantial buffs in what seems to be an attempt from Side Games and Arc System Works to give them a little more competitive viability and open up the viable competitive character pool, which I think is pretty cool overall for any fighting game. If you're new to this sort of patch note style breakdown from me, I'm going to go ahead and just remind everybody that when we are on the daytime archipelago stage, we are looking at the old patch of Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. And when we switch to the dry toyed belt stage, we are looking at the new patch of Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. Without further ado, let's look at the universal system mechanic changes in this patch. The first system mechanic change is going to be to multi-hitting normal attacks, which is primarily going to be on some heavy attacks, like Lucilius's Close Heavy, for example. Previously, if you used Lucilius's Close Heavy attack in a combo that had pretty high combo limit scaling, the follow-up hits to his Close Heavy would add additional combo limit and cause it to drop early. I have an example of a combo that used to drop in the old patch here. As you can see, we hit the combo limit after the Close Heavy, and thus Lucilius was not able to do a Lost Paradise super follow-up here. If you wanted to get a combo from this situation, Lucilius had to opt for the slightly less damaging Close Medium attack, like shown here. Meaning that this combo route near the corner at blade level 5, starting with a Close Medium starter, would do 9,842 damage. But now with this system mechanic change, Lucilius is able to link that Close Heavy at the end of this particular combo sequence in order to add on a little more damage than linking that final Close Medium would have done it. This is an example of what you can do now. Paradise Lost! 9,942 damage. While it's not a game-breaking increase in damage, little additional bits of damage that you can find in your combo routing can go a long way in order to change, like kill thresholds in a situation, or how potent the next mix-up that you put the opponent into as well. Characters like Lucilius, Lancelot, and pretty much any other character that use multi-hitting heavy attacks in their combo structures are going to appreciate this change. The next universal system mechanic change has to do with what we call fuzzy overheads. So previously, if you had a character like Grimnir who had a low-reaching jump normal of kind, in his case jump medium, and you were able to force the opponent into enough block stun, like with a safe jump heavy, then you were able to immediately jump after landing, go for a jump medium, and while the opponent was holding down back, their character would be considered in their standing state still, despite the fact that you would be holding down due to the block stun. This meant then that you could true string into a second overhead, and for a character like Grimnir, who was able to use dash and seals to then get big conversions off of this, you were put into a 50-50 whenever Grimnir jumped at you and he had the seals. He could jump at you, jump again and go high, or he could jump and stay low and catch you low. I started to hold down back after he jumped in, and I still got opened up by the overhead. This has been a pretty powerful feature for characters like Grimnir, Fairy, and Zeta. While this has been an option ever since the vanilla version of Granblue Fantasy Versus, it seems like the developers have finally decided to no longer allow most characters to do these fuzzy overheads, by making it so that if you perform a jumping attack while you're rising in a jump, it can no longer hit against a crouching opponent. That was the same timing as the previous patch, and Grimnir's JM no longer will hit Gran when he is crouch blocking in that situation, effectively removing that mix-up option from Grimnir. The patch notes themselves state, and I quote, despite being a high-level technique that only worked in specific instances, they would create situations where it'd be hard to tell why a hit landed, making it difficult for the opponent to understand how to respond. On top of this, the payoff greatly differed from character to character. We had been making adjustments over time to try and mitigate their effect on gameplay, but we finally made the drastic decision to completely remove them from the game. While all the characters who no longer have this option are slightly nerfed, I feel like the effects of that nerf are disproportionate. For a character like Grimnir, I think it's a slap on the wrist more than anything else. Sure, you do lose a pretty safe setup and option for you to go for, but it's not like you're suddenly dying to figure out how to get a mix-up. He still has some really great strike-throw mix-ups using his seals, and you can also do setups like this, courtesy from the Combo Breaker Twitter and BG Callisto, of which I actually got to cast this set and make this call. Cross-up, he didn't use the block button either.
That's it.
To give Zane an opportunity to go for yet another mix. Gamma-Jun does not have resource for reversal. Invisible! High-low!
That was nasty, right?
This is also a built-in safe jump as well, so it's not like you can just make a read on the overhead and call it out and then DP. You have to pretty much hold this mix-up. For a character like Zeta, I feel like this is a nerf that's a little harder hitting just because she doesn't really have other setups to compensate for this change. She just needed a plus 48 knockdown, which her throw gave her after a buff. Her 2D gives her some of her combo routing and setups could give her that. Then she could jump in with a meaty JH and then JL to go for that fuzzy overhead. And then with her skills, she was able to pick up for some pretty good damage. I feel like just because she wasn't as setup reliant as Grimnir to some degree, because Grimnir at the very least needed his seals, Zeta just needed the right cooldowns in place, and she could pretty much actually loop all this fuzzy stuff. I do think that Zeta is a little harder hit by this. I still think she's good, but she's going to be feeling the impact of this nerf a little more than Grimnir did. And then there's Fairy, who keeps this property on her JL. So once she gets a GG down, she's still going to be able to do fuzzy high-low mix-ups to you. The patch notes say that this was an intended part of her kit. It's supposed to be a core strength of hers, so she gets to keep it while pretty much the rest of the cast loses their fuzzies. I would not be surprised if in a world where Fairy becomes some sort of top-tier character, if they go back on this decision and remove this from her. Still, I think in this version of the game, it would take a lot for Fairy to all of a sudden become like a top 5, top 3 contender in the game. So I don't really see this as an issue for her to continue to still have it. A top tier like Grimnir, though, I can see why they would want to remove it, especially when he has other setups that he can use. Zeta kind of gets the short end of the stick here, though she is still able to use her JU in some of those sequences, so maybe there's going to be some tech that comes out with her, or there's going to be some tech that players will just have to go back to using as opposed to using JL fuzzies as far as Zeta is concerned. That covers the system mechanic changes. There were some other bug fixes as well, but as those were bugs, I really don't feel like I need to go into those. You can always read what else they've bug fixed in the patch notes themselves. From here on out, I'm going to start working on the character-specific videos, which you can start expecting to see tomorrow from the uploading of this video. I'll catch you all around.